Ladies and gentlemen, what does it truly mean to be tough? Society often glorifies strength in its most superficial forms: loudness, aggression, dominance. But real toughness, it's something deeper, something far more profound. It's not about brute force. It's about endurance. It's about standing up again and again when life knocks you down. It's about staring into the abyss of uncertainty, loss, and hardship, and refusing to be swallowed by it. It's about maintaining your character, your values, and your discipline when everything around you is crumbling. Most people today are not tough. They crumble under pressure. They seek validation from others. They avoid pain at all costs. But the strongest among us, the truly tough, understand that life is suffering, and rather than complain, they conquer. Resilience in the face of adversity is not something that people are born with. It is something that is forged in the crucible of hardship. It is earned through experience, through suffering, through facing the darkness of existence and refusing to be consumed by it. Life is not fair, and it never will be. It is filled with challenges that will test every fiber of your being. And the question is not whether or not you will suffer, because you will, but whether or not you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. Most people misunderstand resilience. They think it's about putting on a brave face, about pretending that everything is fine when, in reality, their world is collapsing around them. But true resilience is not about denial. It is about confronting reality, no matter how brutal, and deciding to move forward anyway. It is about looking at the suffering of life and saying, "This will not break me, this will make me." And that is no small feat. It requires a depth of courage that many never tap into because they are too afraid of what they will find when they face the chaos head on. A resilient person does not wait for the storm to pass. They learn how to walk through it. They understand that suffering is the cost of existence, but they do not let it define them. They refuse to be victims. And this is a critical distinction. A victim sees hardship and says, "Why is this happening to me?" But a resilient person asks, "What can I learn from this? How can I use this to become stronger?" The difference between these two mindsets is the difference between despair and growth. One leads to a life of bitterness, resentment, and weakness. The other leads to wisdom, strength, and purpose. Resilience does not mean you do not feel pain. It does not mean you do not grieve or that you are immune to suffering. What it means is that you do not allow that suffering to destroy you. It means you carry your burdens with dignity. It means that when you fall, and you will fall, you get back up, no matter how difficult it is. And here's the thing. Every time you rise after being knocked down, you become a little bit stronger. Every time you endure something that you thought would break you, you expand your capacity for suffering. And that capacity is what determines your ability to face life's inevitable difficulties. The world is filled with people who have been broken by adversity, people who never recovered from a tragedy, a betrayal, a failure. And the reason they never recovered is because they allowed their suffering to define them. They let it turn them into something weaker instead of something stronger. But those who possess resilience do the opposite. They take their suffering and they use it as fuel. They let it shape them into something greater than they were before. They do not run from hardship, they embrace it because they understand that it is through hardship that character is built. The truth is, you do not know how strong you are until you have been tested. You do not know what you are truly capable of until you have been forced to confront the depths of your own pain. And that is terrifying. But it is also necessary, because the alternative is to live a life where you are constantly at the mercy of circumstances, where every setback leaves you weaker, where every difficulty crushes your spirit. That is not a life worth living. That is a life of quiet desperation, a life of helplessness, a life of surrender. And that is no way to exist. The resilient individual understands that they are not entitled to a life free of suffering. They understand that bad things will happen, that they will experience loss, that they will face challenges that seem insurmountable. But they do not allow these realities to break them. They prepare for them. They train themselves to withstand the storms of life, so that when those storms commingled, they will come, they are not caught off guard. They do not crumble under the weight of adversity. They stand firm. And that is something rare. Many people believe that resilience is about strength, but it is not just about strength. It is about endurance. It is about the ability to keep moving forward even when every part of you wants to stop. It is about having the discipline to do what needs to be done, even when you feel like you have nothing left to give. That is the mark of true resilience. It is not about avoiding hardship, it is about embracing it as a necessary part of the journey. People who lack resilience are controlled by their emotions. They allow fear to dictate their decisions. They retreat at the first sign of difficulty. They seek comfort over challenge, ease over growth. But comfort is an illusion. It is a trap. It keeps people weak. It prevents them from developing the kind of inner strength that is necessary to face life head on. And that is why so many people never reach their full potential, because they never allow themselves to struggle. They never put themselves in situations where they are forced to grow. They avoid pain at all costs, and in doing so, they rob themselves of the opportunity to become stronger. The person who is truly resilient does not seek comfort. They seek challenge. They put themselves in situations where they will be tested, because they understand that growth only happens under pressure. They do not avoid difficulty. They embrace it, because they know that difficulty is the price of strength. And that strength is what allows them to face life with confidence, to stand tall in the midst of chaos, to endure what others cannot. And here is what is most important to understand. Resilience is not something you either have or don't have. It is something that can be developed. It is something that is built day by day through the choices you make. Every time you face a difficulty and choose to endure, you are strengthening your resilience. Every time you refuse to be broken by hardship, you are becoming tougher. And over time, those choices add up. They shape you into someone who can handle anything life throws at you. So if you want to be resilient, start today. Stop running from challenges. Stop avoiding hardship. Stop seeking comfort at the expense of growth. Instead, face the difficulties in your life head on. Learn from them. Use them. Let them shape you into something stronger. Because in the end, the measure of a person is not how many times they avoid hardship, but how many times they rise after being knocked down. And the person who can rise again and again is the person who will ultimately prevail. Strength is not something that is given. It is something that must be earned. And the path to becoming a tough person is not an easy one. It is not paved with comfort, nor is it handed out to those who merely wish for it. It is forged in the trials of life, in the struggles that break most people but refine a select few. There is a price to be paid for toughness, and that price is suffering. But suffering alone is not enough. Suffering must be confronted with the right mindset, with discipline, and with the willingness to push forward despite the weight of it all. Most people shy away from hardship. They avoid pain. They run from difficulty. They seek out the easiest path, believing that life should be smooth, that they are entitled to comfort. But this is a grave mistake, because life is not interested in your desire for ease. Life will test you whether you like it or not. And if you have spent your time avoiding struggle, you will find yourself completely unprepared when it comes. It is not a question of if you will face hardship, but when. And when that moment arrives, the only thing that will determine whether you rise or crumble is how much resilience you have built beforehand. A tough person does not flinch in the face of adversity. They do not cower when life becomes difficult. They stand tall, not because they do not feel fear, but because they refuse to let fear dictate their actions. Fear is not something to be eliminated, it is something to be mastered. And this is an important distinction, because too many people believe that the goal is to be fearless, but that is not the case. The goal is to be courageous, and courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. There will always be reasons to quit. There will always be excuses that seem reasonable, justifications that sound logical. But toughness is not about logic, it is about willpower. It is about making the choice again and again to push through, to endure, to persist. And persistence is what separates those who succeed from those who fail. Because failure is not defined by flinch, it is defined by staying down. And those who lack toughness will stay down at the first sign of difficulty. But those who have trained themselves to be strong will get back up, no matter how many times they fall. The world respects strength. It does not reward weakness. Those who crumble under pressure, who seek constant validation, who rely on others to prop them up, will always find themselves at the mercy of stronger individuals. But those who have built themselves into something unbreakable will always have control over their own destiny. They do not seek approval. They do not need permission to move forward. They take responsibility for themselves, for their actions, for their lives, and responsibility is one of the core elements of toughness. The weak person blames others. They find excuses. They complain about how unfair life is, about how they were dealt a bad hand, about how circumstances have conspired against them. But this mindset is poison because it robs you of power. The moment you decide that your life is controlled by forces outside of yourself, you have already lost. But the person who understands that they are responsible for their own fate, that person is truly strong. Because responsibility is not a burden, it is a source of power. It is the realization that no matter what happens, you always have the ability to respond, to adapt, to overcome. The road to toughness is not glamorous. It is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. It requires discipline. It requires sacrifice. It requires the ability to endure suffering without allowing it to break you. And it is a lonely road, because most people are not willing to take it. They would rather stay in their comfort zones, surrounded by mediocrity, doing just enough to get by, never pushing themselves beyond what is easy. But those who choose toughness, those who commit themselves to becoming the strongest version of themselves, those people are rare. And because they are rare, they are valuable. A tough person does not seek sympathy. They do not complain about their hardships. They do not demand that the world make things easier for them. They embrace difficulty. They welcome it because they understand that every challenge, every struggle, every setback is an opportunity to grow. They do not run from pain, they confront it head on. And through that confrontation, they become stronger. Discipline is the foundation of toughness. Without discipline, there is no strength, no resilience, no progress. Discipline is what separates those who talk from those who act. It is what determines whether or not you follow through on your commitments, whether or not you keep pushing even when you don't feel like it. And here's the hard truth: most people do not have discipline. They do not do what needs to be done unless they feel like doing it. And that is why they never achieve what they want. But those who are tough, those who have built discipline into their very core, those people succeed not because they always feel motivated, but because they act regardless of how they feel. Every day is a test. Every moment is an opportunity to choose between strength and weakness. And the person who consistently chooses strength, who consistently chooses to do what is hard instead of what is easy, is the person who will become truly tough. They will not be controlled by circumstances. They will not be broken by setbacks. They will not be defeated by failure, because they have made the decision long before the hardships came that they would not be stopped. Toughness is not about physical strength. It is about mental fortitude. It is about the ability to endure suffering without losing yourself. It is about taking full responsibility for your life, about refusing to be a victim, about embracing the difficulties of existence and using them to become something greater. And it is a choice. Every day, in every situation, you have the choice to be weak or to be strong. And the person who chooses strength again and again, in every moment, in every challenge, that person is the one who will rise above, who will overcome, who will achieve what others cannot. So the question is simple. Will you choose comfort or will you choose toughness? Will you choose the easy road or will you take the difficult path that leads to true strength? Because life is not going to wait for you to decide. The challenges will come. The hardships will arrive. And when they do, the only thing that will determine whether you rise or fall is the choice you made long before they arrived. Toughness is not a trait people are simply born with. It is cultivated through struggle, refined through hardship, and proven in the face of adversity. And make no mistake, adversity will come for you. It will test you in ways you never expected, challenge you beyond what you think you can handle, and push you to the very limits of your resilience. Most people, when confronted with these pressures, falter. They retreat, they complain, they justify their failures by blaming the world around them. But those who are truly tough, those who have built themselves into something stronger, the ones who refuse to break. Strength is not measured by how much you can lift or how loud you can speak. It is measured by how much pressure you can withstand before you crumble. And the world is filled with people who look strong on the surface but collapse under the weight of even the slightest difficulty. The moment things do not go their way, they panic. The moment they are criticized, they lash out or shut down. The moment they encounter resistance, they give up. That is not toughness. That is fragility disguised as confidence. And if you want to truly be tough, you have to go beyond appearances. You have to build something within yourself that cannot be shaken. The first thing that separates the tough from the weak is their relationship with responsibility. The weak avoid it at all costs. They do not want to be accountable for their actions, their choices, or their circumstances. They blame their upbringing, their past, their genetics, society, thing but themselves. They refuse to take ownership of their lives because doing so would mean accepting that their failures are their own. But the tough person, the one who is truly strong, understands that responsibility is not a burden. It is the key to control. Because the moment you take full responsibility for your life, you reclaim the power to change it. Toughness is also about endurance. Not just physical endurance, but the ability to withstand discomfort, rejection, loneliness, and failure. Most people avoid these things at all costs. They chase pleasure, distraction, and instant gratification. They expect life to be easy and are shocked when it isn't. But those who are truly tough do not seek an easy life, they prepare for a difficult one. They understand that suffering is not an anomaly. It is the default state of existence, and rather than running from it, they embrace it. They use it as a sharpening stone, a tool to refine themselves into something better, something stronger, something unbreakable. A tough person is disciplined. They do not allow their emotions to dictate their actions. They do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. Weak people let their moods control them. They wait until they feel motivated before taking action, and as a result, they rarely accomplish anything meaningful. Because motivation is fleeting, it comes and goes. But discipline, once built, remains. It is the foundation upon which every great achievement is built, and if you do not have it, you will never accomplish anything of significance. The toughest individuals are not the ones who are loud, aggressive, or domineering. They are the ones who possess quiet confidence, unwavering determination, and a deep sense of self-control. They do not react impulsively to insults or setbacks. They do not need external validation to feel worthy. They are not swayed by peer pressure or the shifting opinions of others. They know who they are, what they stand for, and where they are going. And because of that, they are unstoppable. Resilience is another defining trait of toughness. It is the ability to recover from failure without losing your drive. Most people, when they fail, see it as a sign that they should give up. They take it as proof that they are not good enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough. But the tough person does not view failure that way. They see it as feedback, as an opportunity to learn, as a necessary step on the path to mastery. They do not dwell on their mistakes. They extract lessons from them and keep moving forward. And because of that, they succeed where others fail. Tough people are also independent. They do not rely on others to validate their choices or guide their actions. They take full responsibility for their own path, make their own decisions, and bear the consequences of those decisions, whether good or bad. Weak people seek constant reassurance. They need others to tell them they are doing the right thing, to support them at every turn, to shield them from discomfort. But a tough person understands that, in the end, they are alone in their struggles. And rather than fearing that, they embrace it. They do not seek to be saved, they save themselves. And finally, toughness is about adaptability. Life will throw unexpected challenges at you. It will change in ways you cannot predict. The weak resist this change, cling to the past, and fight against reality. But the tough person adapts. They are flexible, open-minded, and willing to adjust their approach when necessary. They do not break under pressure. They bend and come back stronger. They understand that survival belongs not to the strongest, nor the smartest, but to the most adaptable. And because of that, they always find a way forward, no matter the circumstances. Toughness is not something you are born with, it is something you earn. It is a decision you make every single day, in every action you take, in every challenge you face. It is built through responsibility, discipline, endurance, independence, resilience, and adaptability. And it is rare. That is why tough people stand out. That is why they are respected. That is why they succeed where others fail. Because they have chosen again and again to embrace difficulty rather than run from it, to take ownership rather than make excuses, to stand firm rather than crumble. And if you want to be one of them, you must make that choice too. Toughness is not just about surviving adversity. It's about thriving in it. It's about being forged in the fire of difficulty rather than crumbling under its weight. Most people misunderstand what it means to be tough. They think it's about physical strength, about appearing invulnerable, about never showing weakness. But that's a shallow and immature view of toughness. Real toughness runs much deeper than that. It's about resilience, adaptability, and the unshakable will to keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles arise. A tough person is someone who does not allow their circumstances to dictate their actions. They don't wait for things to be perfect before they take responsibility for their lives. They understand that life is chaotic, unpredictable, and often unfair. But instead of using that as an excuse to do nothing, they use it as fuel. They know that suffering is inevitable, that hardship is guaranteed, but they refuse to let it define them. They do not become victims of their circumstances. They become warriors in spite of them. And that's not an easy thing to do. Most people are looking for a way out, for an escape, for a shortcut. They want the reward without the sacrifice, the success without the struggle, the wisdom without the experience. But that's not how reality works. If you want to be truly tough, you have to earn it. You have to step into the storm rather than run from it. You have to face your fears, confront your weaknesses, and build yourself into someone who can endure. One of the clearest signs of a tough person is their ability to remain calm under pressure. When things go wrong, and they will, most people panic. They get overwhelmed. They become emotional. They make rash decisions that make things worse. But the tough person, they take a deep breath, assess the situation, and act with clarity. They do not allow their emotions to control them. They understand that reacting impulsively to adversity only compounds the problem. Instead, they step back, think strategically, and move forward with purpose. This ability to stay composed in difficult moments comes from a deep sense of self-mastery. A tough person does not rely on motivation to get things done. They do what needs to be done, regardless of how they feel. Weak people operate on emotion. If they don't feel like working, they don't. If they don't feel like pushing through, they quit. But the tough person understands that discipline is far more valuable than motivation. They have trained themselves to act in accordance with their goals, rather than their fleeting desires. Another defining trait of true toughness is an unrelenting commitment to self-improvement. Weak people avoid challenge because it exposes their flaws. It makes them uncomfortable. But the tough person seeks it out. They actively put themselves in situations where they are forced to grow. They do not shy away from discomfort, they embrace it. They understand that growth only happens when you are pushed beyond your limits. And so they push themselves again and again until they become something greater than they were before. Tough people do not waste time feeling sorry for themselves. Self-pity is a trap. It lures you in with the false promise of comfort, of validation, of relief from responsibility. But all it does is weaken you. It convinces you that your suffering is unique, that you are helpless, that the world owes you something. And that is a dangerous mindset to fall into because it robs you of your power. The tough person refuses to wallow in self-pity. They acknowledge their struggles, yes, but they do not let those struggles define them. They take responsibility for their lives, even when it would be easier to blame others. Toughness is also about integrity. It is about standing by your principles even when it is inconvenient, even when it costs you something. Weak people bend with the wind. They say whatever they think will earn them approval. They compromise their values for the sake of fitting in. But the tough person, they stand firm. They do not seek to please everyone because they know that's an impossible goal. Instead, they commit to living in accordance with their deepest values, even if it means standing alone. A tough person does not fear failure. They see failure for what it truly is. Feedback, a lesson, a stepping stone on the path to mastery. Weak people are paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes. They let the possibility of failure prevent them from even trying. But the tough person understands that every failure brings them one step closer to success. They embrace their mistakes, they learn from them, and they keep going. And perhaps most importantly, a tough person does not give up. They do not quit when things get hard. They do not walk away when the odds are stacked against them. They persist, they endure, and they keep moving forward, because they know that toughness is not about how you feel in any given moment. It is about what you choose to do despite those feelings. The world does not reward fragility. It rewards those who refuse to break. And if you want to be one of them, you have to cultivate the traits that define true toughness: resilience, discipline, composure, integrity, and perseverance. It is not easy. It never will be. But it is necessary, because in the end, toughness is what separates those who simply survive from those who truly thrive. Strength is not merely about physical endurance or the ability to assert dominance over others. True toughness is a psychological and emotional fortress, built brick by brick through years of hardship, discipline, and self-reflection. It is the ability to carry immense burdens without being crushed by them, to withstand pain without succumbing to bitterness, and to walk through the chaos of life without losing one's sense of direction. And yet, very few understand what it truly means to be tough. They confuse arrogance for confidence, recklessness for courage, and indifference for resilience. But real strength is not loud or boastful. It is silent, unshaken, and deeply rooted in one's character. One of the most defining traits of a truly tough person is their ability to control their emotions. This does not mean suppressing them, ignoring them, or pretending they do not exist. It means recognizing them for what they are: temporary, fleeting states of mind that should not dictate action. Weak people allow their emotions to rule them. When they are angry, they lash out. When they are sad, they shut down. When they are afraid, they retreat. But a tough person acknowledges these emotions without allowing them to steer the course of their life. They have trained themselves to respond to situations based on reason, not impulse. This is an incredibly difficult skill to develop, but it is also one of the most important, because if you cannot control your emotions, someone else will. Toughness is also about embracing discomfort. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain, seeking out the easiest path, the most comfortable existence. But the strongest among us understand that struggle is not something to be feared, it is something to be embraced. Growth happens in discomfort. Progress is forged in difficulty. No one becomes strong by taking the easy route. You do not develop resilience by running from hardship. You become tough by facing it head on, by willingly putting yourself in situations that force you to adapt, to improve, to overcome. A tough person takes responsibility for their life. This is another trait that separates the strong from the weak. Those who are weak are always looking for someone to blame: society, their upbringing, their circumstances, their genetics, their bad luck. They cling to excuses because excuses are comforting. They allow people to believe that their failures are not their own. But the tough person refuses to play this game. They understand that while they cannot control everything that happens to them, they can control how they respond. They do not waste time complaining about what is unfair. They do not indulge in self-pity. They take ownership of their actions, their choices, their failures, and their successes. And this mindset is what ultimately gives them power. Because as soon as you take full responsibility for your life, you realize that you are in control of your future. Tough people also do not seek validation from others. They do not need external approval to feel worthy. They have built a strong internal foundation that is not dependent on praise or acceptance. The weak, on the other hand, are constantly looking outward, constantly adjusting themselves to fit into whatever mold they believe will earn them approval. They crave validation because they lack self-assurance. But a tough person, they do not need the world to tell them they are enough. They know it. They do not conform to expectations that do not align with their values. They do not compromise their principles for the sake of fitting in. They live in accordance with their beliefs, even when it makes them unpopular, even when it isolates them, because they understand that real strength is found in authenticity. A tough person does not crumble under failure. They do not see setbacks as confirmation of their inadequacy. They see them as opportunities to learn, to grow, to come back stronger. Weak people allow failure to define them. They give up at the first sign of struggle. They interpret obstacles as proof that they are not capable. But those who are truly tough, they expect failure. They anticipate setbacks. They know that the road to success is paved with difficulty, and because of this, they do not quit. They persist again and again until they break through. And perhaps most importantly, toughness is about endurance. It is about the ability to keep going when everything inside of you wants to stop. It is about pushing forward when the weight of the world feels unbearable. It is about refusing to let circumstances dictate your potential. Life is not easy. It never will be. But those who are truly tough understand this, accept it, and move forward anyway, because they know that the only way to truly live is to meet the challenges of existence with unwavering determination, no matter how difficult the road ahead may be. Toughness is not something that people are born with. It is something that is forged over time through struggle, sacrifice, and self-discipline. It is not a loud quality. It does not announce itself. It does not demand recognition. It simply exists, deeply rooted, unshakable, unwavering. And yet most people misunderstand what it truly means to be tough. They think it is about dominance, about crushing opposition, about imposing their will on others. But real toughness is much more profound than that. It is not about defeating others, it is about conquering yourself. One of the most defining traits of a truly tough person is their ability to endure. Life will break you down if you let it. It will throw obstacle after obstacle in your path, challenge after challenge, hardship after hardship, and most people at some point will break. They will crumble under the weight of their burdens. They will lose themselves in self-pity, in bitterness, in resentment. But the tough, they do not break. They bend, they adjust, they adapt. They keep moving forward, even when every fiber of their being tells them to stop. They refuse to give up, not because they do not feel pain, but because they have learned to carry it. A tough person understands that pain is not an enemy. Pain is a teacher. Pain sharpens you. Pain reveals who you really are. It strips away the illusions, the lies you tell yourself, the comfortable narratives you cling to. It forces you to confront the truth about yourself, your weaknesses, your insecurities, your flaws. And that is an incredibly painful process. But the tough embrace it. They do not run from discomfort. They seek it out. They know that the only way to become stronger is to put themselves in situations that test them, that push them, that force them to grow. There is also an element of quiet confidence that defines true toughness. It is not arrogance. It is not bravado. It is the deep, unshakable knowledge that no matter what happens, they will be able to handle it. Weak people are ruled by fear. They avoid risk. They avoid failure. They avoid challenge. Because deep down they do not believe they are capable of overcoming adversity. But those who are tough, they are not afraid of the unknown. They are not afraid of hardship, because they have already faced it, and they have proven to themselves time and time again that they can withstand whatever comes their way. Toughness is also about discipline. It is about doing what needs to be done, even when you do not feel like doing it. Most people live their lives based on how they feel in the moment. If they feel tired, they rest. If they feel discouraged, they quit. If they feel overwhelmed, they retreat. But the tough person, they do what is necessary regardless of how they feel. They do not rely on motivation because they know that motivation is unreliable. It fades. It disappears when things get difficult. But discipline is what separates the strong from the weak. Because discipline is doing the work when no one is watching. Discipline is showing up when it would be easier to walk away. Discipline is consistency, and consistency is what builds real strength. A tough person does not complain. They do not make excuses. They do not look for reasons to justify their failures. They take full responsibility for their lives. They do not blame their circumstances, their past, or other people for where they are. They understand that while they may not control everything that happens to them, they always control how they respond. And that mindset gives them power. Because as soon as you stop blaming others, as soon as you stop making excuses, you realize that you are in control. You realize that your future is entirely in your hands. And perhaps most importantly, a tough person has purpose. They know what they are working toward. They have a vision for their lives. And that vision gives them the strength to keep going when things get difficult. Because things will get difficult. There will be days when they want to quit.